Taking a look today at Triumph TR3 and Triumph TR4 starter motors. These are the 4-cylinder Triumphs built in the 50s and 60s. This does not pertain to 6-cylinder Triumphs that came later. Until recently, I believe that the early TR3 starter and the later TR4 starter, used on some late TR3s also, were interchangeable. But I've come to find out that is not correct. So to begin with, there was the TR3 starter, and it's mounted in the car. The front of the car is going that way, and it's got the very conventional shape, like a bullet nose, and the pinion jumps away from the starter to engage the ring gear on the flywheel. I apologize, I don't have another flywheel, I just have the ring, but it's a 91 tooth ring pressed onto the flywheel that this 10 tooth pinion engages on the TR3. Think of this as a set: the press on ring, the bullet nose starter. Then later in TR3 production, someone decided cantilevering this mechanism out in free space was a good idea, and having it jump towards the motor, towards the front of the car. Note it's mounted in the car the same direction, but the pinion jumps in the opposite direction to engage the flywheel. And with this starter came a bolt-on starter ring. Although there may be some press fit at work here as well, it's also held on with 6 bolts. And this is a 90 tooth ring, the TR3 a 91 tooth ring. It's also important to note this, as I've drawn here, this needs room in the transmission. So if your transmission was intended for this starter is not going to fit. Now I've seen some people bust a hole in the transmission so this can stick through it, where the correct transmission would have an enclosure in the aluminum to surround this. So if you're swapping engines and transmissions, that's something to watch out for. Again, this starter won't fit on a transmission intended for this starter. I'll also point out, although the tooth count of the pinion is the same, the TR3 pinion has a smaller diameter. The TR4 style starter, still 10 teeth, but a larger diameter. Now, I can illustrate that this ring is a little bigger. As I drop this over, it's just a little bigger in diameter the whole way around. So what some guys can get away with, maybe not for long, is smaller diameter TR3 starter and smaller diameter TR4 starter ring. Guys can get away with this, but maybe not for long. I'm guessing large diameter pinion and large diameter ring might not even work once, but I haven't tried that. I'll also take a moment to note, I believe somewhere in the service manual it recommends pressing this off and turning it a bit and pressing it back on, possibly when you're in the neighborhood, like with a clutch job. The starter has chewed all the teeth off in this one spot. If before they were completely chewed off, someone had pressed this off and back on, they could have worn out a new spot. But having gone to the effort of pressing it off, most people, I reckon, would today spring for a new ring. Also, I'll make note of the fact this has little bevels machined into it, and that has to be, the pinion has to be coming towards those bevels. Somewhat obviously, any beveling on this would be on the opposite side because this pinion is jumping that way to engage. This foil is something, I was missing this cover on this starter, and this was back in high school. I wrapped it with foil and duct tape so dirt wouldn't get inside. Probably should have used pipe wrap tape or just found the correct cover. Once again, this and this is a set, this and this is a set. To use this, the transmission has to have either a hole broken into it or have been made for this one. Thanks, and be sure to watch my other videos.